It's time to get your geek on.
You complete me.
With Dave Gramillion.
Except it's not. Dave's not here, everybody. This is your boy Goose, and this is Get Your Geek On, powered by the Texas Renaissance Festival. And with over 650,000 people attending the event from September 29th through November 25th, you will want to make sure you get your tickets at TexRenFest.com. Again, that's TexRenFest.com. So I got a question for you. Are you sick of politics? I mean, you just need a break from it all. I know this last week especially was crazy. Well, it's time to embrace your inner geek, because this is your geeky oasis on Talk Radio. This is Get Your Geek On, and we are at Season 3, Episode 16, 120 episodes after tonight will be in the can. And today we will talk about the Bumblebee trailer that came out earlier this week, and it made us 80s kids everywhere so happy. Dark Pheonix trailer also came out, behind the scenes picture of the Picard series, and the New York Post let us know what the best trilogy of all time is. Do you agree with that? Or are they just full of garbage? We'll do that and so much more. But first, I've got to introduce the one Motley Crue member who is here with me tonight. Yes, that's right. Dave's not here, but our good friend, our buddy, our temporary co-host is Alex Chavez, who we call Clickbait.
Oh, how you doing, Goose?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Super excited because we always seem to have a lot of trailers that are coming out recently.
Yes.
And there are a few that came out today. Some of them really like, some of them not super crazy about, but we're going to talk about it all, and I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. So let's get things started, because I haven't been able to play this song in a long time, and this song just makes me happy every time that I get to play it. And so we're just going to dive right in, and we are going to talk a little, well, I say Transformers, but hang on a second. All right, let's just do it without the music. Let's talk Transformers. Transformers, more than meets the eye.
You know, Goose, before we do that, I just want to mention your intro was very on point. Never heard you intro the show before, and it's great. And I just want to give you like a small golf clap over there.
But only a small golf clap.
Just a small golf clap. There are mics around. Anyway, but sorry, sir. Interrupt.
No. You feel free to interrupt me anytime you want, as long as it's a compliment.
We'll see.
In the meantime, thanks for that delay, because I got to play.
I'm glad you got what you wanted, Goose.
I did.
I'm glad you're happy with yourself.
That made me happy.
Yes, sir.
So the Bumblebee trailer came out, and it gave us all geek bumps, because we got to see Bumblebee as the Bug. We got to see Triple Changers come up, and we got to see Shockwave, Cybertron, Optimus Prime, Soundwave, and yes, even a little Ravage. Oh, I've been waiting for this since 1986. The movie's going to take place in 1987, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And I've been waiting for this since 1986.
So really, you've only waited a year, if you think about it.
Yes. But as we know, the Michael Bay formers were not good. They were not based on the G1 designs, but it looks like Bumblebee will be.
Yeah, and they look super dope. All the Transformers, the like you said, they're very these aren't based off of those designs. These are those designs. You know what I mean? It's not an interpretation. It's what you saw in the cartoon, just on the big screen. So that's super dope to see. But it just kind of confuses me as far as what they're doing. Are they soft rebooting this? Is this a prequel to everything that the Michael Bay films did? Because if it is a prequel, it doesn't make sense with some of the other like lore stuff they built up behind the scenes of the first film, and some of the stuff that they seem to have set up. But I mean, either way, I'm just super excited about it. One, because it looks dope, and two, I'm just excited to see hopefully a really good Transformers film this time. You know,
well, the Bumblebee robot design does look the same, so I'm guessing
the face definitely does.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's a prequel.
I mean, I'm not sure if they're pulling like an X-Men First Class, where it's kind of like a soft reboot, where like they're rebooting it but kind of keeping some of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But overall, it looks super dope. I'm super excited about it. Obviously, you seem to be super.
I am so happy about it. So Peter Cullen's back as Optimus Prime.
Yes.
Oh, if there's one thing Optimus Prime should ever be, it's Peter Cullen.
Yeah, that's one of those things where who's gonna do that like later? You know what I mean? Like that's one of those roles that is so identified with him or with an actor that there's no way you're gonna replace that. It's not like a Batman or a James Bond where different people voice or act those roles. That's like it's only him. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, they've tried, Beast Wars came out and they did it. And then also, I think the same guy did Optimus and all the different versions that came out on like Cartoon Network and things like that, like Cybertron and Energon.
But aren't those just like
some of those
trying?
are just god awful.
Yeah, but they're still just trying to be,
Oh, yeah. It's very much a Peter Cullen tribute, a Peter Cullen homage, if you will. But yeah, so Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime is the only way to do it. Now, we've talked about how much us all people who grew up with G1 love this trailer. But how do you think the Michael Bay fans are like in this trailer?
Are there Michael Bay fans?
Well, there are people who the only Transformers that they actually know and that
is the Michael Bay one,
are the Michael Bay ones.
I mean, I think that if the only Transformers that you've grown up with for maybe that younger generation that this is like their gateway into Transformers, I mean they're still getting what they signed up for in the other films. You still get the big robot, you get the kid that finds the robot. There's that bond between the humans and the Transformers, and then additionally you're still getting a lot of action. You're getting a lot of these iconic characters that you're seeing and interpreted in a new way, but it's very much the same way, when compared to the old cartoons. But I think those folks are going to go in and go, oh, cool, it's another Transformers I don't foresee any of these people going in like, this isn't. Where's my Megan Fox and where are my dogs humping dog houses? Well,
the good part is it looks like the Spike in this is a girl, so that'll help the Megan Fox people.
Really? But she's like a little girl. She's younger.
Well, she's younger, yes.
Yeah.
But Megan Fox was younger when the first film started,
I guess.
Too. So, in regards to that, so how we have people that complain that Christian Bale wasn't Michael Keaton or things like that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to run into that same thing with this one, where it's like, well, it's not my Transformers. I know we did that in 2007.
Yeah.
When Transformers first came out, I was like, okay, you got Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus, but that's about as far as this goes.
Yeah. As far as like, people wanting to hold true to their interpretation of it.
Exactly.
I mean, I think Transformers is, it's, for me, the medium, I'm sorry, the property of Transformers is spread across so many different mediums that I don't think that anyone is going to necessarily be upset by it. Because if you don't like the movies, you had the video games that were coming out. If you didn't like the video games coming out, you had the movies, you had the extra TV shows, you had the 5 other different interpretations that we've had. So I don't foresee that if people don't respond to this Transformers, that there's not going to be another outlet for them to get their Transformers film. As far as them wanting to hold true to what they believe their Transformers is.
So there's room in the Transformers universe for everyone. G1 lovers, Bayformers lovers, Beast Wars lovers, every which way but up.
Well, I see it kind of like Power Rangers, where there's so many different interpretations of Transformers, or with my comparison, Power Rangers, where you can find the one that you want, you can still gravitate to it. The difference with something like this and something like Star Wars or the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies is all those films are in one continuity. If you change something, you're making everyone upset. These films and the Transformers are spread across in just such a vast way that I think everybody's going to walk away with either getting something out of this film, or they're not going to like the film. They still have their Bay films or whatever other medium that they foresee as their Transformers.
Yeah. Now, that wasn't the only trailer to come out this week. Now, there was Fantastic Beasts 2, but unfortunately neither Alex or I are Harry Potter fans. So sorry, Harry Potter fans. We're not going to cover that because we don't have strong feelings one way or the other about that one.
Trailer looks all right, though.
Trailer does look good. I may go see this one. I may actually start with Fantastic Beasts and work my way to Harry Potter. But there was another one that came out. In fact, it came out early Thursday. And it made some people, I guess, happy, some people not. So let's talk some X-Men. All right, and before we go any further, we want to talk to you about one of our great sponsors. That's Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch. That's right, Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch is going to be your place for comics, for tabletop games, all kinds of great stuff you can find at Dragon's Lair Alamo Ranch. As far as comics go, people, Heroes in Crisis just started. We've got the Spider-Geddon that started. We're half deep into Doomsday Clock and Infinity Wars. You want to get your comics at Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch. Facebook.com/DLair Alamo Ranch and DLair.net/Alamo Ranch. They've got some great tabletop things going on every day of the week. Star Wars, Dragon Ball, whole 9 yards. Find a full schedule at DLair.net/Alamo Ranch and on Facebook at DL Alamo Ranch. So, Dark Pheonix trailer came out.
When did you see it, Goose?
I saw it Thursday morning.
So Thursday morning, like Thursday in the early morning?
No,
Thursday
I saw it like at
midnight?
12:30 when it came out.
Yeah,
or
like
when
at
I
midnight?
first saw it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was getting ready to go to bed, and I did my nightly bathroom break where I also happened to go on the internet one last time. And rightfully so, because while I was taking care of my business, I saw, them throw out their business, which was the X-Men trailer.
And there's the X-Men for the trailer for Dark Pheonix, the fourth film of the First Class era.
Yes.
Now, I looked at that and I said, I saw this film 12 years ago and I didn't like it then either. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the Dark Phoenix saga, which we saw in X-Men The Last Stand back in 2006. And it wasn't good. It just wasn't.
No, not at all. And it looks like, so you would think that if they were doing something similar or they were going to, borrow beats, because, you can still make the argument that like, oh, this is in the same timeline or universe as the previous films. It was like a soft reboot.
Yeah.
They mess with the timeline a little bit. Maybe history is going to kind of sync up or it's going to, be very mirrored to what happened before. At least hide that. Because it's no secret that nobody liked what they did in X-Men The Last Stand. So why would they choose to, in the trailer, just show us the parts that are X-Men The Last Stand? Ooh. Sorry, I almost had a hiccup there.
No problem. So, of course, when in Days of Future Past, Wolverine changed the timeline.
Yeah. And
this will actually be, I think, the first X-Men movie without Hugh Jackman in it.
Yeah, like at all. Like no cameo, no nothing.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, at least to our knowledge.
At least to our knowledge.
But I highly doubt there's going to be anything.
Because not even Hugh Jackman did X3 and he won't do this film. What does that tell you? But
to be fair, Logan was his swan song.
That's very true.
I think they could be making like, hey, this is going to be the definitive X-Men version. And unless he's going to be standing next to Captain America, he doesn't want to be involved in it.
I honestly don't blame him. So this one is still under the Fox banner. Yeah, the Disney sale just went through, but this was still made under Fox. I think New Mutants is still going to fall under that Fox banner as well. So hopefully Disney can, do better when they actually have control over it. But
yeah.
One of the things that always strikes me about movies like X-Men movies, Star Trek movies, things like that, they always seem to want to retell stories that have already been told and don't do it near as well as other adaptations.
Yeah, because obviously they're tackling the Dark Phoenix storyline.
Yes.
Which is one of the, as far as comic books, that's one of the most, like, when someone asks what kind of, if someone's like, hey, I'm getting into X-Men, what are like the definitive X-Men stories to check out?
Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, that's the first one that anyone's going to throw out to you.
Yeah.
And then was it the 90s cartoon?
The 90s cartoon that had to be the best adaptation of that story ever done.
Oh, yeah. And, then they did it in X3, and X3 is just...
That's a piece of hot garbage is what that is.
Yeah,
it's just hot garbage.
Yeah, and my thing with this trailer is one, I think it's garbage. It's terrible. This trailer and Aquaman are right there as far as my garbage trailers of the year. Mm-hmm. But my thing is like there was nothing in this film that seemed different. There was nothing in this film that seemed exciting. No. There was nothing that seemed like it stood out because even the story beats look like they're the same thing. One, from X3, but from every movie. It looks like Magneto's a regular guy, like he's going to be a good guy, and then he's going to be made to be a bad guy again. Then he's going to argue with Professor X. Then by the end of the movie, everything's going to happen.
So it's going to be every other X-Men movie ever.
It's going to be the same thing. Well, at least in the first 3, they kind of tried to play with that relationship a little bit. But First Class on is just the same story with Magneto.
Well, with Days of Future Past, he actually walked away and Logan changed history. Basically, they decide, you know what, X2 and X3 are so bad, especially X3, we're going to actually do a movie to erase that from the timeline.
You thought X2 was bad?
I didn't like it that much.
What?
Well, I'm also not a big Weapon X guy.
X2 is amazing.
Not as good as the first one.
Oh, no. X2 is better than the first one.
Yeah, no, it's not.
X2 is a lot better than the first one. We're going to have this argument later.
Yes, we are. We are going to have it. So I have a question for you, Alex. And I have a question for our audience as well. When it comes to adapting comic book storylines, what is actually the best way to do that? Are movies better, live action television, or animated television?
So the best way to adapt.
So you have like the Death of Superman. You have Nightfall. You have the Pheonix saga. Movies, live action, or animated television.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that anything that's a little more long form, like, well, I have two answers. If it's just I have to pick from what you've said, I would say like animated or long form TV shows, because you have more time to build up the characters, because the characters are just as important to the story as, you know, the big event that takes place and what happens. But if I can kind of turn your question on its head a little bit, I just think that the key to making a good adaptation is to adapt it. And adapting means adapting it to the medium that you're in,
right? Not
trying to retell the exact same story. And I know, like, it seems like that's what they're trying to do with this, but no, it seems like they're retelling the same story from X3, which obviously wasn't good.
No,
like Civil War isn't beat for the movie. Civil War isn't beat for beat what the comic is. They took aspects of Civil War. They took aspects of still what's left over from the Winter Soldier storyline, and just from several interactions with Captain America and Tony over that period of time, and just kind of made this, and threw Zemo in there, and made this mishmash of just storylines that worked out really well.
Right.
And I think when you do that and you adapt things and not try to tell it verbatim, it comes out really well if you're a competent storyteller.
Well, if you're trying to tell a story that takes place, say, over a year in a comic book format, you can't tell it in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, so take, you know, we don't talk about this a lot, but take DC TV, for instance.
Okay.
They do a good job telling a original story, even the crossovers, in a 4-hour medium.
That's true.
But at 4 episodes, and it's an original story.
Yeah.
And I don't know why Hollywood and why comic book writers are so intent on telling stories that have already been told instead of using these same characters and putting them in a new environment. You know, everybody with Star Trek is, oh, let's tell a Borg story. Let's tell a Khan story. Let's tell the Dark Phoenix story when it's X-Men. Or, hey, guys, let's do Civil War. Or let's do this event or that event. Guys, we've read the definitive parts of this. We don't want it redone. We want you to do better.
Yeah. So the CW crossovers, which is kind of like what you were mentioning, those aren't necessarily 4 hours of content, because you still have commercials.
You have commercials.
You still have some of the filler stuff in the episode.
3 hours.
So you could condense that into 3 or 2.5 hours of a great story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so why can't they do that with these films?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you should just take those people and get them to do a movie and not shove Zack Snyder into everything.
You know what we could do?
What's that?
We could throw him in the Sarlacc pit.
Ooh.
Yeah, we used to do that. Back when the show first started, we had the Sarlacc pit segment. In fact, if you want to hear some of our early episodes, you can do that 2 ways. One, go to bit.ly/Geigo YouTube or bit.ly/Geigo podcast. You can listen to all of our archived content. Well, not all of it yet, but over the next couple of weeks, it'll all be up there. It is all on Geigo podcast, bit.ly/Geigo podcast, but most of it is at bit.ly/Geigo YouTube as well. So, guys, one thing I do want to mention here in the time we have remaining, we had Shannon McRandall on last year or earlier this year. And if you know who Mara Jade is, and who doesn't, if you're an Extended Universe fan, she was actually the model for the photos that you see, like the trading cards and whatnot. and she could use our help. So Shannon McGrandle is Mauer Jade. Look for her on Facebook. She has a fundraiser for ongoing health concerns. So we want to make sure we help her there any way possible. So I had to bring it down a little bit because we were already in the down dumps of Dark Pheonix anyway. Yes, I said it. I said it. So taking my 3 options out.
Okay.
So movies, live action television, or animated television. What other mediums do you think would be good for telling a story like Dark Pheonix?
Like other than the ones you already mentioned?
Yeah, other than the 3 I already mentioned. Like a direct to DVD or direct to digital movie series, or what do you think?
I think like Netflix.
Netflix
would be something, because look at what they do with the Marvel stuff they already have there right now.
Yeah.
For the most part, all of it's really fantastic. Even the stuff that some people are like, it wasn't as good as Daredevil or whatever. It's still pretty darn good, and they tell amazing stories. And they have that time and that length to do it. Obviously, you have to adapt Dark Pheonix in a way to where it's not as cosmic because of the budget you'd be working with under Netflix constraints.
Yeah, because you're not going to have the Shi'ar Empire. You're not going to have the what is it? The Omicron crystal or something like that. You can't blow up a star. You can't do any of that stuff in a live action setting because the budget would just be way, way too big for that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they potentially could. It would just, then you run the risk of looking like you're the Inhumans series and not looking super great.
Nobody enjoyed that.
Actually, I know it's a little tangent, but me and my brother Willie, when that came out and they did the first 2 episodes in IMAX.
Oh, I saw that. I paid money. I was like I'm one of 5 people in the theater at the time.
Us too. It was us and like 4 other people in that theater. Maybe one was you, but it was great. I loved it. Did you not like it?
Here's the thing. I enjoyed that series, and I thought it was better than what people gave it credit for, but they didn't bring the budget to it that they do to the other Marvel films. They actually brought it down. They cut Medusa's hair in the first episode.
Did that on purpose?
They did that on purpose because everybody would expect her to use it every episode.
Yeah, and then immediately they incapacitate Lockjaw.
Yes.
So that they don't have to animate Big Old Dog every single episode.
Nope. Not every single episode. Crystal, I like Crystal's story progression in that. That was fun. Black Bolt's character development, that was very, very good. That was very good.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't finish it. So.
Oh, you didn't finish it?
No, I didn't. So, I watched those first 2 episodes. I watched like 2 or 3 live on TV, and then after that, I was like, "There's nothing. I'm not as invested anymore."
So I was like I'm the only person I know who actually watched that series.
Dang, how many episodes is it altogether?
I think it's like 8. Or I think they did a full 10 to 13, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Because they actually delayed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
for that. But I don't foresee it coming to Netflix or going anywhere. I think Marvel just wants to sweep it under the rug.
Definitely. I know that you had wanted to bring up something.
Yes.
About an actor who hopefully is going to be in something better than the trailer he was just in.
Well, we all know that James McAvoy plays Professor X in the First Class era.
Real quick.
Yes.
Patrick Stewart or James McAvoy as Professor X?
Yes. I'm okay with either.
Oh, so just you don't have a favorite?
Well, my heart and soul will always belong to Patrick Stewart.
Personally, I think James McAvoy does it better.
This is your last show.
I just think that
in prior we hadn't actually discussed it, but
Goose like we just discussed it.
This is your last show.
I didn't even have to say anything about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This time.
No, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the best Marvel show ever.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's better than Inhumans.
Oh, well, I mean, Iron Fist is better than Inhumans, according to some people.
I have a bad joke, but anyway.
Oh, God. Go ahead.
Well, no, I can't because this is FCC regulated.
No, I meant go ahead about James McAvoy.
Well, no, James McAvoy, I like them both. I honestly do believe that James McAvoy does a great younger Charles Xavier, and Patrick Stewart will always be the gentleman version of that. Patrick Stewart, of course, first time I ever saw him was the first time most of America saw him, when that was in Encounter at Farpoint in Star Trek The Next Generation. Mm-hmm. But he does have a series that's going to come out on CBS All Access. And I'm looking forward to that. In fact, we're going to talk about that later on, as well as CBS's short treks and their desire to actually have year-long Star Trek on CBS All Access. But we want to hear your thoughts as well on the two trailers, Bumblebee and Dark Pheonix. So if you liked them both, let us know. If you liked one better than the other, let us know at facebook.com/Geigo Radio. Also on Twitter and Instagram, same thing, Geigo Radio. As I mentioned, YouTube and podcast as well. So when we return right here on Freedom 1160 and freedom1160.com, we will talk the Patrick Stewart Star Trek series. We will talk about who made an offer to play a young Captain Picard or young Jean-Luc Picard in that very same series. And the New York Post gave us what they believe is the best trilogy of all time. Do we agree? Is there something better? And what actually makes a good trilogy? Stick around right here to Freedom 1160 and freedom1160.com. Get your geek on without David Gramillion this week. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back to after the bottom of the hour news break. I am Goose, and this is Get Your Geek On Freedom 1160 and freedom1160.com. And we are powered by the Texas Renaissance Festival with over 650,000 people attending the event from September 29th till November 25th. You will want to get your tickets at texrenfest.com. Don't forget, on Sundays, children under 13 get in for free. Again, that's texrenfest.com. Get your tickets today. And it actually started, as this airs on Sunday, yesterday. So we want to make sure we get to that. Joining me is Alex Chavez, also known as Click-bait.
Ooh.
How you doing today, sir?
Good. I just realized I always like coming in with like a ooh or like a oh.
You do. I know.
Every single time. Is it annoying?
Not really.
Okay, thank you.
But if you missed the first half of the show, well, we basically just loved the Bumblebee trailer and took Dark Pheonix apart.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that trailer was so horrible. So horrible. But don't worry about that. If you missed any of it, you can catch our podcast at bit.ly/Geigo podcast. Also, so that means we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Spotify. Get Your Geek On is available on all those platforms, which you can find at bit.ly/Geigo podcast. That's right.
And the YouTubes.
That's bit.ly/Geigo.
Definitely.
YouTube for that as well.
And also, if anyone, for any reason, missed the Dark Pheonix trailer, it's okay. It's very easy to find. Just go outside, look at where you normally keep your garbage can, and the trailer's right there. You've seen it. What'd you think? Let us know. Goose seemed really like that. I'm being truthful to the people.
You are being truthful.
I'm being truthful.
All right. So with that in mind, and we talked about James McAvoy when we talked about X-Men, and of course he has played a young Professor X.
Yo.
But now we're going to talk about the person who we saw on the big screen first as Professor X. He's got a new show coming out. It's time to talk some Star Trek news.
Yeah. If you see Klingons, better make sure that your face is out. And if you're in the blade, grab your uniform, cause it's future chic. All the haters now.
Oh, and this segment of Get Your Geek On is brought to you by our friends over at the Heroes and Villains of Cosplay. That is, of course, our friends over at Havoc. Because when we went to Wizard World Austin, I saw a lot of Star Trek cosplayers, and they will help you get your cosplay on. Sometimes you're worried about, am I the right fit? What can I do? What material works best? Stuff like that. You want to contact our friends over at Havoc, and you can find them on Facebook at Havoc Texas. That is our friends at the Heroes and Villains of Cosplay. So a photo came out, behind-the-scenes photo with Patrick Stewart and the writing team from Star Trek about the new Picard series coming out. Mm-hmm. We don't have a date yet. It's going to be coming out after season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. We know that. And you just now saw the pic for the first time, Alex. Is that right?
Yes. At least I should be.
So what do you think about having a series just about the adventures of Jean-Luc Picard? 25 years after the last. Well, let's see. It's been 16 years since we saw him in Nemesis.
Well, I mean, I'm not. I mean, and I've talked about this before. I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan.
No, you're not. But that's okay.
What I find really interesting and really exciting about this is that opportunity to, one, continue the story, but two, continue it in a fashion where we're still getting those iconic actors that are so associated with those characters, like we were talking about earlier, like with Optimus Prime as well. And I think this is another one of those examples where the fan base is going to eat it up, and especially since, you know, there are those who don't like the Abrams style of the Star Trek films. Star Trek.
So we had Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond.
No, but I was going to say the current show. It's escaping
Star Trek Discovery.
Star Trek Discovery. Then we have people that are really into that show, and we do also have people who are maybe not as into that show. And hopefully this is going to be something that'll bridge the gap of folks who are not so into the Abrams films, but also who maybe aren't super into this new Discovery interpretation, but they're going to be really hopefully excited for this this new continuation of these stories.
Now, of course, again, this is going to be on CBS All Access. You think with having Picard, it could bring more fans to that platform?
I think anytime any IP is going to bring back any actor, any writer, any director that is widely associated with that IP, fans are going to flock to it. Like, I know we're not talking about it, but like, for example, the new Halloween film's coming out this year. You know, John Carpenter's back on it. It's the first Halloween film he's been back on. Everyone's super excited about it. It really promotes confidence in it. And I think the same thing is going to happen with this new Star Trek series.
So you know how many Halloween films I've seen total?
I'm going to be really disappointed if it's none, and if it's not none, I'm going to hope it's just 2.
So you're going to be disappointed.
Oh man,
I have yet to see a Halloween film.
What?
And that's really sad, considering in the original Halloween, it was a William Shatner mask.
Yeah, and that makes so it's topical.
Yes.
I did it on purpose.
Yes,
totally forgot about that.
Yes,
but no, that's really surprising to me. You should, this Halloween, especially because the new one's coming out, watch the first one and then go watch the new one. Because realistically, timeline wise, you only need to see the first one. But the other ones, if you're ever going to get into them, watch the first and second one. Don't worry about any of the other ones.
So you know how we'd mentioned that the Mike Myers mask was actually a William Shatner mask?
Yes.
He's going to be at Alamo City Comic Con, and so is Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker on Star Trek Next Generation, speaking of Patrick Stewart. Now, we had, also in the news, something came out about an actor offering, he hadn't been offered the part, nobody's really talked about it, but he's offering to be a young Jean-Luc Picard in the Picard series. And that is none other than our friend James McAvoy, Professor X, in the X-Men movies. Now, of course, we had our friend Tom Hardy, currently playing Venom, played a young Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek Nemesis. That was just a piece of garbage. That movie was horrible. So, who do you think could do it better? McAvoy, or could Tom Hardy beat up James McAvoy as a young Patrick Stewart?
Well, I think James McAvoy would be an amazing choice to go with, mainly if nothing else, because think about what other characters Patrick Stewart is most identified with. Goose, what are the 2 characters that Patrick Stewart is the most identified with?
Captain Picard and Professor X.
Exactly. What is
all day long?
What's the other character that currently in this climate James McAvoy is very known for, and he's about to be known for again next year?
Professor X.
So I think it would just bring that additional level of a fan excitement towards it, because then it shows like, the studio cares, or hey, if James McAvoy is able to portray a younger version of this stoic aged Professor X, then maybe he can do a younger version of Picard's character as well, because realistically Patrick Stewart's a great actor. I don't think there's a whole lot of range there. I think he's very similar in a lot of stuff that he's in. So I don't think it would be hard for James McAvoy to morph into that. And additionally, let's say this series does really well, do a prequel series, and now you have James. I mean, obviously that's what we're talking about, but now you have James McAvoy locked in for something that is going to be able to go for years, as opposed to Patrick Stewart.
I think with the young Patrick Stewart, think more like flashbacks or things like that. And the overall tapestry. Just guys, Alex Kurtzman, if you can hear me, stay away from the Borg. just please stay away from the Borg. Starting actually Thursday this coming week, they're actually going to debut on CBS All Access again. Star Trek Short Treks. That's going to be a 10 to 15 minute episode once a month leading up to Star Trek Discovery. They're going to have a soooo story, a Harry Mudd story, a Tilly story, and then a story from somebody we haven't seen yet. 10 to 15 minutes, all it's going to be on CBS All Access in the lead up to season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. What do you feel about when they do those little standalones and they're only like 10 or 15 minutes?
I'll be honest with you. That's something that I'm not too familiar with because, like we've said before, I'm not the biggest Star Trek person.
But you know, we see these shorts on Blu-rays for different things. Like DC had the shorts, and then Marvel was known for those one-shots.
One-shots, yeah.
That really have the characters, but really didn't tie into the overall tapestry.
If it's more so just from the perspective of like how they add to the medium, I think as long as it's something that is only going to add and not take away from it, and I also don't want it to be something that bridges the gaps in certain things. Like, for example, like you mentioned Marvel. Marvel had some great one-shots that if you take the one-shots into canon, it doesn't make sense with some stuff that happens later. And then additionally, there are some one-shots that cleaned up some inconsistencies that Marvel had. So as long as it's something that is just adding to the medium and not being a supplementary piece of content that you absolutely need to understand what's going on, I'm all for it.
So on, I believe it was the Captain America, the first Avenger disc, they actually had a Marvel one-shot called Something Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer.
Yeah.
With Coulson, my man Coulson.
Yes.
Yeah. So it gave him a little bit more of a character aspect to him.
And it just showed how bad that guy is.
Oh.
Like he's
awesome.
Yeah, he just kicks all kind of butt in that short. But see, like in that one's amazing, right? But then there was one that happened. I can't remember which film it came out with, but there was one, because if you remember at the end of The Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark.
Oh, was it the Specialist one? That one?
I think so.
It was at the end of Thor, I think.
Okay, you might be right. But Robert Downey Jr.'s character at the end of the Hulk went to go talk to Thunderbolt Ross about what looked like to be recruiting the Hulk. But in later Iron Man movies, it doesn't make sense because Iron Man was very against it. He was very like, oh, I never wanted to be a part of that. So they cleaned it up later in a one-shot that was like, oh, Tony Stark, actually, this is what happened, and that's why he was
it took place after Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Because Hulk and Iron Man 2 were happening concurrently.
Yeah, but that wasn't the original, like, intention of it.
No, that was not the original way we saw it. We always thought, these things happen in sequential order.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I mean, but even as they were filmed, it was something that was like, oh, we got done with Iron Man. Oh, we're also doing this that will hopefully lead into this. But obviously, they didn't know what they were doing or what the plan was. So they had to clean it up later.
Yeah.
But anyway, as long as it's not doing anything like that, and it's a piece of content that is going to be supplementary, that is going to make the audience more excited about obviously the main form of content, then I think there's only good that can come from it as long as you do it correctly.
All right, now we have a bit of a discussion topic here. And so when we get into that, I want to tell you guys about, you heard me talk about it a couple of times, the Texas Renaissance Festival, which actually started as this airs on Sunday. It actually started yesterday, September 29th. Get your tickets tonight. Now, they have some great theme weekends coming up that you do want to be a part of. Yes, indeed. Coming up next weekend, that would be October 6th, 1001 Dreams. The week after that, it's a barbarian invasion. Barbarians will be invading Texas Renfest on October 13th.
Oh, it's a theme. I thought you were just going.
No, well, I might, but I'm going in November, probably. The October 20th, Pirate Adventure. November 10th, Heroes and Villains. We get our friends over at Havoc to go to that. Heroes and Villains of Cosplay need to go to the Heroes and Villains weekend. Definitely. And then 11/23 is going to be Celtic Christmas. So if any of those interest you, or just going in general interest you can actually get season passes at texrenfest.com. The New York Post came out with a story earlier this week, which you can find on our Facebook page, facebook.com/SkyGoRadio, about the best trilogy of all time. And they said it wasn't Star Wars, it wasn't Back to the Future. No. The best trilogy of all time was, wait for it, Indiana Jones.
Ooh.
Yes. Apparently, they've polled 2,000 Voodoo users, 2,000 Americans who have Voodoo. got to pick the best movie trilogy of all time with the original Indiana Jones trilogy getting the number one nod for that. So we're talking Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade.
Gosh, what do you think about that, Goose? Like, just your first reactions to that?
I think if that was actually listed as, hey, what's the best trilogy of all time, Indiana Jones, that's false advertising in the first place.
Yeah, because technically it's not a trilogy.
Well, if that poll came out in 2008, then I'd agree with it.
Yeah, I get you. But obviously that's what we're talking about right now. Because what is it? Is it just saga at that point? A franchise?
It's a franchise because those three films don't actually tie together.
Yeah, that's true. Technically, they're not even episodic.
No, because Raiders.
Yeah.
And then you go back. Temple of Doom is a prequel.
Yeah, because it happens before Raiders.
Right, and then you have Last Crusade after that.
Definitely. There is a quick tangent. There's a great video game called Indiana Jones and the. I forgot what it was called, but it came out like in the early 2000s.
Right.
And it bridges the gap between Temple of Doom and Raiders.
Ooh, nice.
And it leads, or does it lead right into Temple of Doom? Oh no, it leads right into Temple of Doom. I'm sorry, it happens before everything, leads into Temple of Doom, and then obviously Temple of Doom goes into Raiders. But it's just a cool piece of content that gets added on to that if you care that much about it. But I think even if we're not taking Crystal Skull into account,
right,
I wouldn't call Indiana Jones the best. I love it. I think it's amazing. I know there are some other ones on your list here of trilogies that I can even see would be considered more valued than Indiana Jones.
Now, of course, you mentioned that that's not your favorite trilogy. What is your favorite trilogy? And we're not asking just Alex, but also our audience as well. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, put your favorite trilogy right here in the comments, right below here. Of course, if you're listening on podcast, go to our Facebook page or our YouTube page and drop the comment right below and let us know what your favorite trilogy is. Now, I would say, and you're going to hate me for saying this.
Go ahead.
If you take Temple of Doom out of it, Indiana Jones is a trilogy. If you go Raiders, Last Crusade, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that's actually not a bad trilogy.
Because all those go in tandem with each other. Like, they make sense. Realistically, it's Temple of Doom that throws that whole thing off.
It is, because in Raiders, you have the university, you have Marcus.
Yeah.
And you have Saba. In Last Crusade, you have the university. You have Marcus, you have Saba, and you have Henry Jones Sr., played by Sean Connery. In Kingdom, you have the university. They talk about Marcus and Dr. Jones and Saba, and you have the son. It rounds it out very, very well from a
you're very right.
narrative standpoint.
I can definitely see that.
But Kingdom Skull is such a bad movie.
Yeah, you know what? The Temple of Doom kind of reminds me of the Wolverine.
Yes.
Where it's the character that we love in a totally alien situation. Like there's nothing that we love about the other two films or other three films in Temple of Doom that carries over. It's just Indiana Jones in a jungle with an annoying kid. But yeah.
So they took Kingdom of the Crystal Skull out of it and called it a trilogy, which in my opinion doesn't work on a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But what in your opinion makes an actual trilogy? What are the components that if you take three movies and you make them a trilogy, what are the main components that trilogy needs to have?
Oh, I love this question. So essentially, a trilogy is always your first film. You're establishing the character, you're establishing their struggles, and you're giving them a beginning, end, and resolution to that beginning of their story. The second movie is their story in full swing. That's their greatest adventure. Normally, that's like the highlight of your trilogy. And then the third movie is the closure. The wrapping it up.
Right.
This is what we've learned. This is where we've come. The other two movies have an effect on the third film. And that's why Indiana Jones to me doesn't work as a trilogy.
No, not at all.
Because, the first one happens, and the second one, nothing affects the second one from the first one because they literally aren't even in line as far as timeline. And then the third one, the second one doesn't affect the third one, and the third one doesn't affect the second one. Like, nothing happened there.
No.
So it really doesn't make sense. But additionally, you just need to have character growth. You need to have stories that you follow that become more complex, yet still relatable and understanding, and that just grow and become really exciting. And obviously the third one, you always want to have like that big crescendo, that big epic moment that it's been leading to.
So I thought about some movies some things that I consider to be trilogies, and I kind of want to get your take on them. Of course, the most obvious one is Star Wars, 4 through 6, and then 1 through 3. Those would be considered trilogies based on your definition, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because even though they're all like in line with each other, it's still like these characters deal with this problem in this trilogy. These characters deal with this thing in this trilogy. We grow, we follow them, and then obviously this new one is hopefully doing that as well.
Now, something that some people may not have thought would be a trilogy, but I tend to think is original cast Star Trek. So Shatner, Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, all that. Star Trek's 2 through 4. I think that is probably a great Star Trek trilogy. You start off with Admiral Kirk and them kind of in their older age, defeated, or not defeated, but in a different thing than what we saw them in the series. Khan comes back. Kirk and the Enterprise is forced to go fight. The end, Spock dies. They try to search for him in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. It's in the title. And then they're on Vulcan at the end of 3. On 4, they're still on Vulcan. They go to the past, pick up the humpback whales, come back, save the Federation again. And at the end of the movie, they're cruise together. Kirk's back down to captain, and they're on a new Enterprise, ready to begin a whole new adventure.
And you know what? I would see that, but I think it still has the Indiana Jones effect.
But they're connected. It tells one story across 3 movies.
They are, but I feel like it's not the full intention of that franchise. Like the first 3 Star Wars films, the intention of those 3 films is that. The next 3 films, there's an intention to build up to Vader. And then in these, there's an intention to do something that's not crappy. And we're not there yet. But that's the intention. Yeah. And I just feel like from the first, because obviously, you know, we're not mentioning the first one, that's not the intention of the original film. You know what I mean?
You're right.
So that's personally why I would discount that one in a similar fashion that we did with
with Back to the Future.
Jones. Back to the Future. Yeah, I think it's a trilogy, as in things timeline wise happen. Don't think it's a great trilogy because characters don't really change to me.
Right.
They force changes that don't really work. But yeah.
How about the Christian Bale Dark Knight? Would you consider that a trilogy or just a 3-movie franchise?
I consider it a trilogy because things from the previous movies still affect the characters going forward. I don't think as well as people want to play it up. I think obviously the Dark Knight is the best out of all those films. It's at this point still the gold standard for what a Batman story should be. But really that's a great film, and then the other 2 films also happen.
So in that case, it's the middle film that is the best in your opinion.
And most times,
the middle one is horrible compared to the other 2. In a trilogy, the third one is typically the slow one.
Yeah.
Because it's the most character villain, like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It's very slow, very character, not as much action. Star Trek 3, very slow, very character, not enough
normally
action.
The second film is kind of because you're not worried about wrapping up anything, you're not worried about establishing anything. You're just telling the story, and normally that's when the director, the crew, and the actors are at full swing. And normally that's the one that's going to have the most stakes.
And it was originally one novel, but they broke it into 3 parts. The Hobbit. That's a trilogy just by its very nature because they cut the book. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The Marvel films. Now, would you consider the 1 through 3 of each character to be more of a trilogy, or
no? Except for none of them, because all of them you have to watch movies in between.
Okay.
Like Iron Man 3, you have to watch a movie in between. Thor to Thor 2, you have to watch the movie in between. Captain America, you have to watch several movies in between that trilogy to make it make sense. The trilogy that I think is the definitive best trilogy in film.
Is it the X-Men, the first X-Men movies?
No. It's on your list right here. It's the only one you haven't mentioned yet.
Yes, and that would be the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films.
Yes, that is definitively. Aaron's over here in studio shaking his head at me saying, no, that's the absolute best trilogy. People give the third movie a whole lot of flack, but if I can have just 30 seconds of your time.
The third movie is horrible.
No. Listen to me.
They did too much in that movie.
Listen to me. So I'm really passionate about this. The first film is amazing. absolutely great. Sets up these characters amazingly. Builds up these relationships that have an effect in all of the films. Okay. You have a beginning, middle, end with the Green Goblin. You have a great poetic story. It's very poetic with how the Green Goblin happens in tandem with Spider-Man becoming Spider-Man. The family matters, everything. The second film, everyone agrees for the most part, the second film is the definitive Spider-Man film. It's awesome. Things from the first movie affect it. That whole film is Peter dealing with the consequences of his life and the first film. Third one, people give it a lot of crap, but it's an amazing Spider-Man film. It's just as cheesy as all the other ones. The other ones are just as cheesy as the third one. The difference is the third one just has a little too much going on, but it's a great conclusion. Has a great climax. That everything has been leading to. Even though Venom is not super like fleshed out, right? He's still a great opponent and that mirror image of Spider-Man that we need to see him be, and see the selfishness and the revenge that could have consumed him and was the reason that he became Spider-Man. But instead of those things happening to him, he became the better version of that.
Now, like we talked about with The Dark Knight, I think the second movie of that is the best one.
Definitely.
Spider-Man 2 with Dr. Octopus, probably the best Spider-Man movie done outside of Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming has a special place in my heart because of Marissa Tomei. Oscar winner, Marissa Tomei.
What really quick, because I know we're running low on time, but what is your favorite trilogy?
Well, just because I'm a Star Trek fan, I like Star Trek 2 through 4.
So that's your trilogy?
That's my... between that and Back to the Future, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
Gotcha.
Because if I want to have fun, it's Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But if I want to have good, solid, like, character feels, it's Star Trek 2 through 4. So that's kind of my thought on that.
Gotcha.
So, and that means we are actually out of time for today's show. Peter and David both aren't here. But it was just me and Clickbait today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed our discussions on Bumblebee, on Dark Pheonix, on Star Trek, and, of course, the best trilogy of all time. Dave will be back next week, as will I. Will Clickbait? We'll find out, I suppose. We want to thank our sponsors, Texas Renaissance Festival, Dragon Slayer Animal Ranch, Havoc, and The Mailing Spot. Thanks so much for listening, and make sure to get your geek on every single day.